What's up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 581 of the Smark on Moment Smack Talk podcast, Hot Tags of the Week. Going to be breaking down all the things that happen in the world of pro wrestling that we feel like talking about as far as news and rumors and gossip and speculation and current events and TV recap stuff and all the other usual things that we go and talk about here. And we are the usual suspects. Tony Mango here, joined by Callum Wiggins.
Hello there.
And Robert E. Felice.
Hello.
And we are kind of rolling along with a couple sad topics this week and some predictions for the Raw 30th anniversary special. We got somebody hopping from a company to another one. We got the Vince McMahon stuff that's going to happen every single week, it seems. And, you know, some TV recap and all that stuff. So as we go along here and we talk about these things, we want to know what you have to say about them. So drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you are over there on YouTube and you are doing that, you should make sure that you are clicking on the like button and the subscribe button if you haven't done that already. Ring that little notification bell as well. That way you have that all set up in time for those email alerts when we do our Royal Rumble post show. We've also got that little thanks button. You got the join button. Same thing as the Patreon. Give you more information about that later on or anything. Let's just kind of hold off on doing too many plugs at the beginning of this. And let's get into the biggest story of the week. Unfortunately, this is how you got to start off. And, you know, we had talked about in the previous couple of hot tags that, like, the Vince McMahon stuff was all, like, stressful and depressing and all that goes along with that. But that we were lucky enough not to have to talk about any of these types of topics. But, you know, enough weeks go by and then something crazy happens like this. And the biggest story in the pro wrestling world this week is the unfortunate passing of Jay Briscoe. Ring of Honor tag team champion, just had his dog collar match with his brother on the Death Before Dishonor, or not the Death Before Dishonor, the Final Battle pay-per-view that happened in December. Great match. And there was a car accident. He passed away, and so did, I believe it was the driver of the other car, if I remember correctly. Unfortunately, his daughters have had complications when it comes to this, and it's just a really terrible story. They were trying to do some tribute type stuff on AEW, and this is another topic to talk about, like inside of the topic, but apparently even during this idea, Warner Brothers just rejected the concept of doing any kind of a tribute. How do you guys feel about that? And you guys are way more familiar with Jay Briscoe than I am. So if you have any like, standout moments of his career or anything, or any thoughts you guys want to talk about when it comes to that?
Well, not that I won't be saying anything that hasn't already been said by people who are much more closer to him and knew the man himself. But it seems like this is a really heavy loss for a lot of people. By all accounts, he was a great father, a great human being as well. I know certain people in offices at Warner Brothers Discovery seem to think that one mistake that you then spend a long time recovering over and learning and bettering yourself over the next 8 years or so. Apparently that doesn't count or doesn't mean anything to those people, but it's totally fine that well-known wife slapper Dana White comes on your very next TV show and talks about how great it is to slap people in your stupid CTE-inducing slap league, which the entire broadcasting company should be absolutely ashamed to be putting onto the airwaves.
That's crazy. We maybe we'll go on a side thing about that.
And I don't really want to give it too much airtime, because frankly, it probably won't have too much airtime going forward, considering the ratings of the first episode. But I think that it's absolutely disgusting that they would not allow a tribute to a guy who, yes, didn't actually appear on any episode of AEW, but was essentially I guess in many people's eyes, the beating heart of Ring of Honor throughout pretty much its entire tenure. He was there from day one. He worked there constantly. He's the greatest Ring of Honor tag team champion of all time, alongside his brother. And it's yeah, and he was also a multi-time world champion, won other titles there as well, and stayed loyal, like like great, like an absolutely like naturally strong promo. Had their very unique kind of style, which was very like you just imagine that every time he cut a promo, you could just see him like cutting it almost like practicing in front like his front lawn or whatever stuff like that. It's almost like you could it was very natural, a very nothing forced or scripted about any of his delivery, and but he always got his point across well. Obviously a fantastic wrestler, tough son of a bitch. Like these matches that you'd had against the FTR last year are three of the greatest tag team matches that you could ever really see. And they're all different. They all have their own unique charm to them. Like the first one really sets the scene for what these two teams can accomplish against each other. You build that up to a 2 out of 3 falls match where they just go even further and show some real both brawling ability and just their pure technical stuff as well. And then you end it with the dog collar match, which is just pure bloody mayhem. And realistically, again, you never want to see a situation like this where a 30-year-old guy in the prime of his life and with so much more years to give falls like this. But yeah, maybe there is some kind of solace in the fact that that final match was arguably one of the greatest matches in Ring of Honor history. But to be fair, he's got a litany of matches that we can all look back on fondly and say that, yeah, this guy, I think, I guess the way I describe it is because he spent so much time on Ring of Honor and on the independent circuit and never, ever went to WWE and never got to appear in AEW. Probably in that kind of echelon of like the greatest wrestlers that the quote unquote casual audience has never heard of or doesn't really know that much about. And yeah, hopefully the outpouring of support from across the entire wrestling landscape encourages people to check out more of Jay Briscoe stuff and remember him as both a terrific wrestler and like a great friend and father. And it is just absolutely gut-wrenching that his life was taken so soon in such a tragic accident. And obviously condolences to his family, his friends, the fans of his, and also condolences to the other victim in this instance as well. And
who often gets overlooked that it's somebody who's not famous,
Oh yeah, absolutely. And also just like just as devastating about what's happening to his the daughters as well. Like hopefully they are able to make as full recoveries as they possibly can. But yeah, just the fact that they're both struggling with their health now as opposed to the accident and the loss of the father as well. It's just it's just an awful situation all around.
Yeah, by all accounts, it sounds like that family is genuinely as tight as they appeared to be on television. I think it's one of the saddest stories I've heard in quite some time. I read the tweet from Tony Khan in real time and almost couldn't process that it said Jay Briscoe. It's so heartbreaking to hear what his daughters are going through, and just hope that they have a full recovery and are able to live their lives as he would have wanted them to. My heart breaks for his wife, who's dealing with an immense amount of pain, I'm sure, so many ways. And it just really seems like you always hear these stories of like he was just the most family man, his family meant everything. I gotta tell you, I didn't hear a single person. I know that they were out there because some people said they needed a social media break, but I didn't see a single person like just try to bring up his past. And I think that like that speaks volumes to me about the things that matter in this life. And that's the kind of stuff we should be focused on as a people. And just all the love and strength to that family. Now, far as the wrestler, I dare say there may not be a more important wrestler in the history of Ring of Honor. When you look at the fact that Briscoe's never left, Jay Briscoe ended up having to become the face, the single face of that promotion for so many years. Once everybody started leaving, he got his first world title by beating Kevin Steen when he was going over to WWE. So, he became just a valuable player in that way. And then, yeah, the Briscoes they were great tag team. And they had great matches with Steen and Generico. They had great matches with Age of the Fall. Obviously, FTR, the Kings of Wrestling. Go watch Claudio and Hero against the Briscoes. Find one of their matches, anyone. They're going to be a barn burner. The Briscoes are Ring of Honor. They wrestled Punk and Cabana. It's just so heartbreaking that we even had to sit here and talk about this. And I don't want to give too much time to the idea about Warner Media. But if the story that's going around is true, that they didn't want them acknowledging too much of the death of Jay, get over it. Why? Because you heard that he had said some things in the past, which, by the way, by all accounts, genuinely atoned for and all that. Or because you saw him wearing the rebel flag on his gear from an old promo picture. Like, stop. People were grieving, people were hurt, and I don't think that that's right. But now our job is to just continue to send, strength, good vibes, prayers, whatever you do, that family, because they're going through such a hard time, and my heart just breaks for them. But yes, go back and watch the Briscoes. They're so good. They carried tag team wrestling in an era where tag team wrestling was all but dead in WWE, and it breaks my heart. It really does.
I would say as well that even though they were not able to do any kind of real tributes to the degree they should have done, well, they probably wanted to, or by all accounts probably would have wanted to, considering the love and affection they had for Jay Briscoe on that episode of Dynamite. Following the taping for Rampage, they then filmed a special tribute show for Jay Briscoe, which will be soon made available free on a club. Which I obviously would urge anybody listening to check out, because there's a lot of heartfelt things that go into it. They managed to get some good people to come in at the last minute that were quite that had worked with Jay Briscoe throughout the course of his career. There's a very impassioned promo by Adam Cole as well, who worked with him for such a long time in Ring of Honor. So yeah, I think it'd be worth going out of your way to check that out. I think I might see well, we're wrapping this topic up to see if I can get a hold of that show.
I know that Claudio faces Daniels. Athena's on the show. Adam Cole has a really heartfelt speech. It's just heartbreaking, man. It really is.
And I saw some people talking about this is another topic that goes along with it, but obviously the NXT side of things, that apparently there was supposed to be a funeral segment. The New Day was going to basically the promo that they had about never facing Pretty Deadly, and we've moved on past them, was going to be packaged more as the death of Pretty Deadly getting a title shot. Mm-hmm. And on the fly, they pretty much were like, hey, we just found out about this information. We're going to cut that, obviously, because that would come off really, really bad if we were to do that right around this time frame. And instead, they replaced it with something that I thought was a classy move, even though they had not been a part of WWE or NXT in any capacity. They had Vic Joseph just say, hey, we found out about the passing of Jay Briscoe, and this is a loss for the pro wrestling community, and we send out our condolences and everything. And I thought that was a really nice little gesture to put out there, all things considered.
A really nice gesture. And I mean, Hunter tweeted out something very positively. Sean tweeted out something like they really just allowed people to just say whatever, and it's a rare time that you see the wrestling world come together for a guy who didn't compete in all the promotions.
It's not like it's like you lost like a Randy Savage or something where it's like, oh, everybody knows him, you know.
And I think that's really, really nice. And it's like we shouldn't have to go out of our way to applaud these things, but it goes so far as to say, like, yeah, stop the weird tribalism. Like, this is more of what I want to see in wrestling.
Have you been able to come across that, Callum?
Yeah, so here's the card they've put together for the Ring of Honor Jay Briscoe tribute show. So it's Wheeler Yuta defending the Ring of Honor Pure Championship against Hagane Shino, who's a kind of a regular on AEW Dark. Then you have the Adam Cole promo on Jay Briscoe. Then you have Marina Shafir versus Mighty Myra, Eddie Kingston versus QT Marshall, Athena versus Madison Rayne. I don't know if it doesn't say whether that's for the Ring of Honor Women's Championship or not, but that's the match. Yuka Sakazaki versus Sandra Moon, Juice Robinson versus Brandon Cutler, and in the main event, Claudio Castagnoli versus Christopher Daniels for the Ring of Honor World Championship.
And that's when are they airing that? They haven't said.
They haven't announced when they'll air.
Yeah, it hasn't announced specifically, but when it does go out, it will be just freely available for anybody to watch on the club.
That's good. I mean, that's if WB doesn't let them actually do anything more, that's probably the best that they could do at the last minute like that.
I think that's so weird. Like
we've talked a million times about the idea that like the positives of the cancel culture movement frequently get lost in the negatives as well, where people forget that there's supposed to be like improvement going forward, and that it's not just about like you find something that somebody did in the past and then you make them unable to work for the rest of their lives and then they never can change. Like it's supposed to be moving forward towards people becoming better people, and you have to allow people to do that and to make progress and to make changes and atone for bad things and all. And I don't know Jay Briscoe, I never met him or anything like that, but by all accounts it seems like that's what happened, and certain people should just let some things go eventually and kind of be like, look, all right, I'm offended about something, but I can move on past that because my being offended doesn't matter as much as some other things and stuff. It's another whole discussion, but I kind of look at that and go, all right, WBD, like, really? Come on, kind of. But I'm sure some other people go, no, they shouldn't have even done this, and that's another whole debate. But something to come out of this is something that I'm sure that they're not working on at all right now, because it's not as important as the family members and the grieving process and everything. But down the line, eventually, they're going to have to address filling that void and trying to figure out what to do going forward with Mark Briscoe and the tag team titles and everything. And there hasn't been any indication about what that's going on right now because, like I just said a second ago, way, way bigger, more important things going on at the moment that, Mark Briscoe is not sitting there going, who should I start to tag up with next or something? Like, Jesus Christ, you just lost your brother and now you got all this going on. But eventually when they do address that, we will talk about that on the hot tags or whatever else we're talking about, and, kind of backtrack and figure out the best booking scenarios you can and all that. But, this is not the time to start getting into some of those.
No, but I hope that they are able to use the Card of Honor to give the real kind of, make that as big and as meaningful a tribute show for Jay Briscoe, as they possibly can, for a guy who more than deserves that recognition for being as I said earlier, like the beating heart of that promotion for so many years, for essentially 2 decades.
Yeah, and I mean, who knows? Maybe we're talking about some kind of Mark Briscoe wrestles in the main event type thing, and they end up giving him the title or something. Maybe they end up having specific like video tributes during that, or I don't know. I don't know what their plans might be, but obviously our condolences go out to the friends, family, and fans. And unfortunately, we do have 2 other stories that are in this kind of range to talk about from this week of Amari Miller talking on TikTok about her mental health struggles, and Kevin Nash talking on his podcast about that, which led to his he got like a wellness check, kind of just to be sure that like he wasn't going to hurt himself. And he's since talked about like he uses sarcasm to kind of cope with things and all, but not a good week when it comes to these type of topics. You got to hope that everybody's getting the support and treatment and whatever else it is they need to be able to move forward. But any thoughts you guys have on the Amari Miller and Kevin Nash side of things?
Amari Miller, I just hope that she's, getting the help that she needs. That's really heartbreaking to read from anybody. I've seen a lot of those trends. You've seen those reels where people, share how long it's been since their last attempt, and it's always heartbreaking. But the ones that are, with a very short time span, and in this case, 1 week, it's just very sad to think about. And I hope that she's, getting the help she needs.
I didn't even know that this was a trend.
Yeah, it's like a common reel that people will put out there, and
my TikTok's filled with like people making sandwiches and funny dogs and stuff. I never really came across that before, which it speaks to a whole generation, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's heartbreaking, and just I hope that she does find strength, because mental health is nothing to fuck with. And it's on the same vein, but almost the flip side of that, with Kevin Nash. Look, we kind of cope with these things by making these similar remarks. I mean,
last week I made one.
I completely understood that Kevin Nash was using sarcasm, but I also understand that when you've faced the loss that he's faced in the last year of his life, losing someone that was like a brother to him in Scott Hall, and his own son towards the back end of the year, why people would genuinely be concerned when he makes the comment he makes. I do agree that we should not take away his sarcasm. We should, just continue letting everybody know that they're cared for. And I just shitty to have to talk about these things, but I hope everybody's doing all right.
Yeah, that's kind of the overall sentiment that I can give as well, because you never know what's going on in someone's personal life, or at least for the case of Amari Miller. I know with Kevin Nash, it's more apparent, the struggles and the hardships that he's had to go through in the past year or so in particular. And as someone who hasn't had to suffer that same degree of loss, I can't imagine how that affects your mindset, and whether it is something like that plays on the back of his mind, or it is just an attempt of trying to get through day by day with this kind of more dark or gritty sense of humor or sarcasm throughout it. Whether he needs to cope, then he should be more than entitled to do that thing. But obviously, as Rob says, it's important that we do still check in on people in that state to make sure that they are okay, or as okay as they can be. I guess that's the the real sentiment. In the case of Amari Miller, there's no knowing what she's been going through, or how she's been struggling, and it's not our place to pry, regardless anyway. But I think, at least, whether this was the reason behind it or not, I think it's important to reiterate that wrestlers are real people.
Mm-hmm.
They play characters. And okay, I'm not saying that this is due to like her attempts on her self-harming or attempts of suicide is due to like negative reactions from the crowd, or like comments on social media, or like cyberbullying or anything along those lines. But we do have to remember that those things do happen, and they do have ramifications on people. I mean, God, we're only but a couple of years removed from Hana Kimura and that whole tragic incident as well. So just make sure that these moments are reminded that these people are real people, they have real emotions and real feelings, and that try and temper your criticism or if you, as I say, it's like we shy away from the fact that if we don't like an angle or we don't like a particular gimmick or anything like that, but then we don't go that step of personally seeking out their DMs or things like that and just hurl abuse at them. If you're one of those people, fuck off,
right,
in the kindest way possible. But
fuck the kindest way possible. If you seriously fuck off, because there's nothing to it other than you lashing out your anger for no fucking reason, and you should just direct that towards yourself because you're the only one that can fix your issues. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? That could have been a factor in that. It could be something completely unrelated to that whatsoever. It could be like family issues. It could be whatever. I don't know. You said it, it's not our place to pry, but that is something that is a factor. I mean, there are plenty, way too many instances of people that are I go through horrible depression and anxiety and everything because of social media and because I get attacked online and everything I do online is criticized. And hell, even us. I mean, Rob and I frequently talk about man, you get some bad comments once in a while or something, and then you're just kind of well, there goes my whole fucking week, and
yep.
And we're obviously not subject to anywhere near as much as people that have a bigger platform and thousands or millions more subscribers and followers and fans and all. So yeah, if that's a part of that, then if you're contributing to it, then stop being a piece of shit. And obviously, if anybody is struggling with their own issues, it's been said a million times, but it can't be said enough. Seek out someone, talk to someone. There's different resources out there, and if one doesn't work, try another one. Because none of that stuff is something that anybody wants to be talking about and having the repercussions from, and the sadness and everything that goes along with that. It's just terrible.
I also think, and ourselves included, it's become almost commonplace, let alone in fashion, to be everything is grim, everything, is just awful. But at the end of the day, there's always someone who really does care. And I think weeks like this, we need more reminders of that than anything else. So
we are going to move away from these topics. I know that a lot of people are probably my God, you guys are starting off with the heavy things, but I mean, I felt like if we didn't start off with the Jay Briscoe situation, that it would have been why are you guys waiting to talk about that? But the rest of the hot tags aren't going to be as dour. I'll admit that. But yeah, don't let anything that we say in the future of us joking around with the rest of the hot tags diminish anything that what we just said. Keep all that in mind. So moving on from there, let's talk about this completely unrelated topic because there's no transition that I can get out of that with them out. It's seeming kind of strange. WWE is getting rid of their indie wrestling content. It is not going to be on Peacock anymore to see something like Progress, pay-per-views and shows. And I haven't found too much information about this, but what I have found seems like this was an instance where WWE had essentially purchased the license to a lot of these things just to fill up content on the WWE Network and on Peacock. The time has run out for that, and they decided it's not fucking worth it anymore, so we're going to let it go, and you guys can do what you want and move on and package with whatever you want to do or something, but we're not seeing a real big return of our investment. And honestly, if that is the case, I don't necessarily blame them, because I highly doubt that that's something that would have been drawing people to begin with. I'm sure some people it's a benefit, and if I had it my way, I'd rather spend $10 a month and get all the pay-per-views of every pay-per-view company that's possibly out there, including AEW and stuff. Yeah, sure, of course. But I don't know a single person that has ever said to me the reason why they got the network and or Peacock was because of some like progress show or anything. I'm kind of curious where they're going to go in the future and what they're going to do with all these things. But what do you guys think about this? Is this something that you think is going to work out better in the long run? Are you disappointed with it? Are you excited for the future? What's going on?
So I feel like this goes all the way back to when Michelle Wilson and George Barrios were still there, and there was like a whole talk of a tiered network idea, and like, oh, we're gonna add indie wrestling and it'll be on this different network tier. And I feel like the plans were in place from that. And then when they split off into Peacock, it was sort of like, well, we agreed to do this anyhow, but now you're just on Peacock and whatever. Yeah, I'm sure it wasn't, getting any major hits or anything. I just, like, for me, I've never watched a single Progress thing or a single WXW thing on Peacock, so in that sense, I'm kind of glad that it's just getting back to, okay, it's just the WWE content that's on there. They have their own platforms. They can better market themselves. I understand that the partnership with WWE is a, important one, but I also feel like they're going to be better off on their own.
Yeah, it's kind of a. I don't really have too much of an opinion on it because it's not something that I've actively sought out on the network. Obviously, I don't have to deal with Peacock anyway. I've got the traditional WWE network, but I haven't actively sought out any of the indie content that was available on the network. And to be fair, I don't know if it will still be on the network or it's just a Peacock thing. So, but either way, it's not like I'm going to be rejoicing that I can still watch a Progress show on the network, because the likelihood is I didn't want to watch it when it first came out anyway. There's too much wrestling as it is. But I think that it's a good opportunity for them if they are able to escape from there. Well, if they are being taken off the network in any capacity, to see if they can ship some of those materials out to a fight or something along those lines. Get a few like some archived shows on there. Maybe that'll help earn them a bit of additional money for those promotions that were attached to the WWE side of things for a little while. But realistically, it's not something that I'm giving a great deal of consideration for as a positive or a negative. Like, for me, at the moment, the network is just like the cheap way of getting the next major show and being able to go back and watch old stuff. Anything beyond that is kind of irrelevant to me.
I miss when the WWE Network came out and it was like, had all the promise in the world of, you're going to get the pay-per-views, you're going to get NXT, you're going to get the Cruiserweight Classic and 205 Live and all these other shows. Like, you're going to have Legends House and Countdown and Breaking Ground. And, like, when they would produce content for it, you got these documentaries and 365 and WWE 24, which we always hated the name of and all. Like, I've been sitting on this one set of notes that I have in my ever-growing collective notes on Evernote of like 10 TV show ideas to pitch to the network that I just never got around to writing, because it's always just like, well, we're not going to do this anymore. We're not going to do that anymore. And I had written these notes up back when they were doing shows like the Music Power 10 and all. And I was like, why don't they do something based off of like tracking the injuries and doing like, like surgery, superstar surgeries or something like, and this and that and that and that. And we're in an era now where it's like, yeah, we did a documentary about Vladimir and we don't even want to fucking show it to you. And it's a completely different animal than what it used to be. And I don't like that, but there is admittedly a part of me that is just sort of like, even though I would rather see people be able to like sign up for the WWE network and they've got access to these indie shows, and that would be kind of good for them to not have to purchase anything else. I kind of think it might be a little bit better for the overall scheme of things for Fight to just have some sort of like a rev share type thing or something. I don't know how this would work, but I know it's like Power Slam and there's some other networks that try to do these things. Just have like Fight TV have access to pay-per-view type content, and you want to get a show, we're going to funnel it through there and all. And if anybody wants to purchase it for a super cheap rate or something, then you get a certain portion of the profits, and then you share it with whatever the other company is, and just kind of throw all the indies on there. Everything that's not WWE and AEW and Impact and NWA and New Japan, I would assume, like, people that would be like incorporated into some other kind of fashion. Just have them all. And it might work out better in the long run to just have like the indie wrestling network.
They do. So like there is an IWTV that has a lot of the American indies. Fight did just start their own monthly subscription that has all the GCW events. I know Progress is going to have their own Progress on Demand as they did beforehand. I think that's fine. I think at the end of the day, unless you're going to group these things like this, yeah, let the fans choose whether or not they want to pay $7.99 or whatever it is in the UK for Progress. And I think you'll get the more direct fan support that way, because I'm a guy who liked the original network. I liked, whether it was a failure or not, I liked the idea of how it was legit just, oh, hey, here's these cool hidden gems. And here's, Renee Young has Unfiltered and Corey Graves has Superstar Inc. And it was like, okay, this is the wrestling channel, essentially.
Yeah, like the ESPN channel or something.
And it works, by the way, because that's what the fuck Disney's doing right now. It works. It's just WWE, as per usual, is never as big as they think they are. So they overshot how many people they thought would subscribe. The original idea for the network was always the best, and I think that go back to that is what I'm saying. I don't know what that has to do with the indies, but whatever. Go back to the old network.
I'm not at all surprised to see that this got dropped, though. Just because I can't imagine it had the biggest amount of support. I can't imagine it was drawing a lot of people, and however much money that they spent on it, if they just cut that out, I'm sure that they're going to come around to that on the next quarter and be like, and you know what? Our expenses were decreased by this amount, which means that our revenue was bumped up by this much. And that's what WWE's been doing for the past 2.5 years. So it's just been cutting costs across the board to the point that it honestly wouldn't shock me if WWE were to announce like, hey, we're not using the water tanks at the office the same way as what it used to be, like go back to that whole thing, just because that's the environment WWE's right now, where they're trying to cut all those costs and then sell for $7 billion.
I'm not being funny when I say this. Maybe if the network, or at least our network on Peacock, had a better fucking layout, maybe I'd go, oh look, Progress is here.
It infuriates me so much.
It's gotten awful.
I absolutely hate how, like, when we were doing our 1993 Royal Rumble fan announce table that we just did the other day, for anybody who hasn't checked that out, go check it out. But that you have to search for, like, it's like season 4 or something. And it's like, there's no, you search Royal Rumble 1993, it doesn't come up. You have to go to the Royal Rumble, and then you have to just scroll and be like, all right, well,
you know what year it was.
1988 was the first one, so that's clarified season 1, which is dumb. And then, okay, we got to count up a couple of years from that. And like, fundamentally, I don't understand how they think that's okay. Just user interface is utter fucking trash. And that's why you on Smark Moment, you've got a list like the index page that I created this year, which I was like, that'll be a lot easier for people to browse the site. And I put in the time and I did it. And now you can use it.
I just want to say, I know that Adobe Flash was dying, but I don't know how it suddenly became, well, since Flash is dead, let's just not have things organized and fucking do whatever. Sucks.
Yeah, I still feel like we're like another like 5 or 10 years away from everybody just figuring shit out the way that they figured it out before, because we're in this lull of like the entire internet just doesn't work how it should. But
that's enough ranting about the internet.
Yeah.
Good to get that off of our skin.
Let's talk about some Vince McMahon stuff. He no longer has to answer to the shareholders.
Did he ever?
It's like, that's great. Every 3 days, there's another step forward towards the inevitable. And also, he had reached a settlement with Rita Chatterton over the allegations that he had been going through for this amount of time. And the reports came out that basically it was, well, I'm fully denying it. I just don't want to pay more money with litigation.
Well, to be clear, no. Rita Chatterton is the one that accused him.
You cut out there.
To be clear, Rita Chatterton is the one that accused him of rape in 1986.
Mm-hmm.
And he always denied that, is still denying it, but is like, whatever, I want to sell this company, so here's some money. She asked for $11.7 million, didn't get that, but still apparently got a good amount. And good for her for getting her money after 30 years. You know, I think like that's nice to see that come around, but it's also like, okay, if Vince is just gonna do this shit all along, why did they go through that whole song and dance of
the investigation that didn't mean anything?
I'm gonna retire, and you know, I'm working with the board fully and completely. Like, if you had this power and you were just gonna do this, why did you waste everybody's time?
It's the way that's been described is the fact that he believes that he's been poorly advised. Like, he decided to take people's advice that the best course of action right now is to let things die down a bit by taking yourself off the board and away from the spotlight for a while. And he's come back and said, "Yeah, that was bullshit. I'm Vince McMahon. I can survive any scandal that comes my way." And so he's
literally just doing it.
Yeah, he's returned and he's tightening his iron fist even more tightly around things now. Now with these amendments in place, which means that he no longer needs to specifically answer to the shareholders for particular decisions revolving the company. Just adds to that even like that greater degree of autonomy and control that he has. I'm starting to find reports that he won't be back in some kind of creative or overall like day-to-day hands-on capacity, skeptical at best.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a case of, yeah, that might have been the case a couple of days ago, but you know, a couple of weeks ago he wasn't even on the board of directors anymore, and now he's back and seemingly has more power than he had prior to it.
2 weeks ago, Stephanie McMahon held a meeting that said, no, he's good with us as management, and then a week later Stephanie's gone.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just it's very fluid. It's all happening as we go. And I just, like, there comes a point where I just go, you know, maybe he thought for 5 seconds, fine, I'll try to stop. Realized that he's horribly addicted to work, among many other bad habits, and said, fuck it, I'm just going to take back my company because I always could, because fuck you, I'm Vince McMahon.
It could be kind of like that relapse type thing. Like he tried to quit cold turkey and then was like, I'm going to do more. Even, you know.
Then as January drew near, he was like, you know,
it's Royal Rumble season.
Hey, people might be interested in buying anyway. Could start that up again. I'm beginning to get that vibe. Because let's talk about Nick Khan on the Bill Simmons podcast, shall we? Nick Khan essentially starts off this interview with Bill Simmons by saying, look, anyone who really thought that Vince McMahon was going to tweet a goodbye doesn't know Vince McMahon. And I'm here to tell you that none of us ever thought he was gone. I always knew I had one boss, and it was Vince. And I think he did it smartly because he went away for a few months and now he's back and everything he did was completely legal. But he's a founder CEO and they like to shake things up. First of all, I want to say outside of like the absolute Vince McMahon Kiss My Ass Club presentation at the start of the interview, it's actually an informative interview, and I think Nick Khan's actually a very charming fellow. But this just drove me insane because he's sitting there just like, yeah, I knew Vince is coming back. So then why didn't you just do what you did for Steph and say he's taking a leave of absence? Why go through the song and dance? You know what I mean? Like, at what point was that beneficial when you just are now ruffling more feathers by saying, he's back and we always knew he would be back and yada, yada, yada. You're like, yeah, why? I know the answer, but like still, it just pisses me off. Like,
yeah, I mean, it seems more and more likely as each, hour ticks by. It's like, all right, Vince wants to go private. He just wants to be like, fuck shareholders, fuck responsibilities to anybody but me. This is my thing. I don't care if I have to like burn bridges with family. I'm going to do what I want to do because I'm Vince McMahon. And I mean, we're going to talk about this probably fucking every single week, but it's like, it's exhausting and it's tiresome and I hate it. And I want the world of pro wrestling to advance and get better and not to devolve into more insanity. But you start losing people like this guy that was in WWE for like 25 years or so, and apparently everybody loved him and whatever. What was his name? Adam Hoskins, I think, is something.
Adam Hopkins, yeah.
Hopkins. Yes. And like it's all these people are like jumping ship, and it's just kind of doesn't give me good vibes of what's going on in the future. If it's like, well, this is all the people that were supposed to be on board that everybody liked, they're all getting fired and leaving and all, instead of being like how a couple months ago it was like, oh, all the bad people are leaving. like let's be honest, like John Laurinaitis doesn't have the best reputation in the business, and when it seemed like people along his lines were going to be the ones that were going to be taking their departures from the company, it seemed like it was like, oh, this is like a cull of negativity, and then we can move on and put some better people in place and all. And now it seems like it's almost like going to be the opposite. Like it's going to be like we got rid of the devil we know to replace it with 5 devils that we don't know or something. But you're talking about people leaving the company and all. It's another story going on this week. Devon Dudley has parted ways with WWE. He is no longer going to be an NXT trainer and a producer. And already, of course, everybody's like, all right, well, when are you going to team back up with Bubba Ray?
Well, no, he's never going to because he had a stroke. And I mean, I'm sure he'll do some signings with him.
In some fashion. They'll cut promos. They'll be ringside for something or whatever. Like they're an act together. So whether he pops up to cut some promo on Impact to set up a Bully Ray match or something, I mean, I don't know what Devon was responsible for doing that was good and bad, but cycling in these
He
producers.
produced a lot of the 24/7 championship segments. How do you feel about that?
All right, so it's pretty good that we got. What about that Cole? No, I mean, it's hard to tell. Like whenever they go, like this match was produced by Jason Jordan, and this thing was produced by Helms, and this one's a Finley thing, or whatever it might be. I don't know, but
I know that TJ works with the girls, and they all love him for it.
Seems like that's the case.
That's like the most concrete thing I can get from everything. Because let's be honest, I know that like not every producer and not everybody who doesn't reach the brass ring, so to speak, that's to say they're not great. But I always find it funny when it's like, yeah, this great main event match was produced by Kenny Dykstra. And you just sort of go, huh. Like, what I wonder what he adds to the table. I often think about that when I see those kinds of things.
Yeah, because look, I know that the producers are obviously doing a job because they wouldn't get paid to do nothing. But I'm curious what they necessarily do in those cases. If it's like, we've gone through years of, Pat Patterson would be like, you just do this for the finish. And then that's it. And that's like, well, was he technically the producer of that? Or did he just go, what the fuck? Why don't you just hit him with this finisher? And then that's it. And I'm curious how much like a Devon or anybody else in that whole capacity, if they're sitting there going, why don't you do this type of move? And then you could do this. And then you set this up and we have this kind of story versus how the creative team is sitting there pitching, this is how the story is going to go in this match. And, they've got seemingly dozens of like writers and producers. Right. And then, you got all these different creative minds all tinkering around with whatever. And then eventually you get some people that just call it in the ring. And, I don't think like a Kevin Owens is probably getting as many notes as somebody like a Rick Boogs or something. I don't know why Rick Boogs out of all the people was the first person I thought of. But, yeah, we might see some differences going forward. We might see nothing at all change whatsoever. We may not be able to notice what the difference is between having Devon and not having Devon. But where do you guys think he's going to pop up next?
Impact.
Near a table.
Impact. That's where Bully currently is residing. He would probably just do a load of like signings and events with Bubba.
Bully Ray is feuding with Tommy Dreamer. He's gonna pop up in Impact.
Yeah,
he'll be on TV within a month or two, not next week.
Like he'll say testify really loud.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
tell somebody to get a table for him.
Like Bubba will tell him to get a table, and he'll say no and walk away. And there's your Devon segment, everybody.
Well, somebody else who's in Impact is Frankie Kazarian.
Good.
He had said recently, like, oh, I wanted to bet on myself, and now how much longer I've got that I can keep doing this and all, which gives me the vibe that AEW and Tony Khan was like, yeah, we don't really plan on using you all that much. You're kind of just one of those veterans that's here to lose to other people and to be a guy that helps out the younger talent and the other talent that we want to focus on. And then he probably saw that and said, you know what? Well, the writing's on the wall that I'll waste the next couple of years. I'd rather go to Impact and actually potentially be something more. And I'll blame him if that's the case.
It's one of those situations where it's good to have companies like Impact around, where you can be, where you're not going to pull up any trees in AEW going forward, and WWE aren't going to become calling. So now it's an opportunity for him to go to Impact, where he has a long-standing reputation, a huge part of the history of that promotion all the way back to the early 2000s, and in go in and be a big fish in a slightly smaller pond, and have some of the spend some of the twilight of his career in a more prominent role than he otherwise would be. And I think, it's a smart move for him to make. He's accomplished. Like, people will probably look back and say, like, oh, they didn't really utilize as much AEW, but I think they got as much out of him as you're likely to get. He was one of the first ever AEW Tag Team Champions. And he then went on this really silly Bullet Club Hunter gimmick, which really went nowhere. But
that could have been something cool, though. And then they very quickly just crashed and, went to the storyline that was like, oh man, we're going to follow this and it's going to lead up to like maybe a title match or something, or, maybe he'll be kind of like a, not quite like a Stone Cold Steve Austin type, but you know how like Austin would raise hell with the corporation. It was like, maybe he'll do that with the Elite. And within like 3 weeks, it was like, nah, he's just wrestling people on Dark.
Well, so like, let's talk about what happened with Frankie Kazarian. Because if you remember, Kazarian and Sky and Daniels were in the ring with the Elite at Final Battle 2018, where they basically said, hey, we're leaving, but we're all sticking together. And if you remember, SCU was the first tag team in the ring at All In. And they were a huge part of AEW, but AEW grew so quickly. And suddenly you have CM Punk and Danielson and this one and that one, that suddenly it was like, yeah, we got Kazarian too, but he's on Dark. And I don't blame him for not wanting to be in that position, Yeah,
I mean, realistically, if you're bringing in people like a CM Punk and a Claudio, and you got obviously big names from the start like Jericho and all, but you had less big names to go around, and not everybody is a top echelon type person, even if they might have the talent to be able to pull that off. Just sometimes the careers don't work out that way. And actually, one of the things that we're going to be doing in the future, I don't know when we're going to get around to it, but something that's on the schedule for this year as like a tentative slotted in whenever we get the opportunity, is to talk about wrestlers that they would have been better off in another era. And somebody like a Kazarian, I got to assume if you get like young Frankie Kazarian popping up now, some 21-year-old guy or something, it'd probably be one of those like, man, you got to look out for this guy, top prospect for the future. Sadly, his career is not in that position right now. And, if Tony Khan was just like, look, I don't see you being the type of guy I want to push to the world title or anything. Yeah, go to Impact. Impact will give you a championship and give you a push and do all that.
I'd go so far as to say they should give him the world championship. At this point, say whatever the fuck you want about Impact. They will always be TNA to so many. And people like Kazarian because people like TNA. That's why the Motor City Machine Guns are the tag team champions right now. People like that era. That's why they got Bully Ray in the main event, because people enjoy that. Like, okay, yeah, this is what I remember TNA being. That's what I remember Impact being. And why not? What's really the harm in making Frankie Kazarian the Impact Wrestling World Champion?
Mm-hmm. You give it to other people. Give it to him. So do you guys think that he wins that championship at any point this year?
I think he should win it at Bound for Glory. I think Macklin, the former Steve Cutler, should beat Josh Alexander for it relatively soon at the latest Slammiversary, but I think Kazarian should win it at some point.
I think he's definitely would be in the conversation for it. I mean, they already had his feud with Josh Alexander when he was still just coming over to Impact on a temporary basis while still being signed to AEW. So it would have to be a bit further down the road, but I could definitely see him being world champion. More than anything else, I'm very certain about he'll be an X Division champion again pretty soon.
Is there like a story going on about that right now? I don't watch it, obviously.
No, he's just saying that they're going to give him the X Division title because they tend to do that.
Because he's won that title seven times already.
More than anyone, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the one that I have. Like, as I say, they very likely could give him a world title run, but the likelihood is that his name is very closely etched towards that title. So it's pretty much undeniable that he'll win that at some point. Whether he wins a world title on top of that, we'll see. But X Division absolutely nailed on.
Do they still do that thing where if you're X Division champion, you can cash it in for a title shot?
Yes, sir. They do.
What event's that?
Now it's just Money in the Bank. Like literally, the
at any point,
cash it in whenever he wants.
Oh, that's kind of lame.
That's actually how Kazarian got the world title shot. He won the X Division title at Bound for Glory, and then said, "Option C, I'll see you at Overdrive."
I don't think they could. I don't know if they can do that all the time. Just because, like, you can't just. I think it has to be at a certain time of year that they do that, or who's the champion at this point in the year gets to make that option. Because otherwise, like, I'm not saying that the X Division title was anything to be sniffed at, but surely everyone would just be, as soon as they won it, be doing option C and trying to get a world title match. But maybe
kind of makes you wonder if they were to do something like that. Why? Or maybe there is that I'm just not aware. Is there like a company out there that has something that's like an equivalent of a Money in the Bank, but you have to hold it for a certain amount of time to trigger that? Like, all right, after you've held the Champions Cup or whatever the fuck you want to call it, after 100 days, then you can challenge for the title, or like. Is there anything that's like that out there?
So NWA has a thing with the TV title where if you win 7 title defenses in a row, you can at any point cash in for a world title shot.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so Lucha Underground had the Gift of the Gods Championship as well, which was essentially, it was a title belt that you would wear that would eventually, you could cash in to challenge for the world championship at a week's notice. And I can't remember exactly if it was for a specific event or one of their, like, essentially almost like guaranteed you the title match for a major event coming up. But yeah, I think there has been a recent trend of championship belts that are designed to have the holder hold it up until the point that they can challenge for the world championship, and then it becomes vacant and you pass it along to the next person and tell the next story with it. But I think it's important that those titles themselves are worth chasing for and are defended in the lead up to cashing them in for that bigger opportunity.
So we got a couple other things to talk about here, and one of them being that we're going to be rolling along next week into the Royal Rumble prediction side of things. So I want to remind everybody that we've got something up on the website now. It's I posted it just before we started doing the hot tags, and of course you're not listening to our hot tags right now because we haven't uploaded the video yet because we're still recording it. But at around like 3:00 today or so, the predictions contest for the Royal Rumble has been put up on there. And what we're going to do for this, is we kind of decided and broke down, is as follows. For anybody who wants to be taking part in it, we've got the WWE Fantasy League going forward. The way that we normally do things and all. We always have our pay-per-view predictions, but we're going to make it a little bit more interesting this time around by adding more of the Royal Rumble prediction stuff to it. So Callum and Rob and I are all going to be factored in as whoever wins this. It's going to be with the WWE Fantasy League. But on top of that, given the option for you guys to take part in this. So I have up on the website is a Google form. You can fill that out and fill out all the different things that we've got up here. The 1 to 30 entrants, and then all the extra guesses that can go with the shortest time, the most eliminations, etc. You're going to get points based off of this in this kind of breakdown where whoever you guess on the final 4, each one of them that you guess correctly is worth 4 points, because that makes sense. Final 4. If you guess the winner correctly, that is 10 points. The Iron Man / Iron Woman is 7 points. Whoever gets most eliminations and the shortest time, both of those are worth 7 points as well. And 7 points are awarded to any direct hit on the 1 to 30 entrants, and 3 points for being within a 1 spot range of that, which means basically if you predicted that somebody comes out at number 10, let's just say you were like, all right, well, we're going to say that Shinsuke Nakamura comes out at number 10 and he comes out at number 9 or number 11, then you get 3 points. If he comes out at number 10, you get 7 points. If he comes out Any other time between then, doesn't matter whatsoever, except for that is going to be one of the tiebreakers, because first tiebreaker, if we need to come to it, 1 point will be awarded to every person that is in the Royal Rumble that you guessed correctly, just in general, so it doesn't matter what their entrant spot is. And then if we need a second tiebreaker by any means, that'll be the person with the closest time prediction for the combined Iron Man and Woman without going over. Both people go over, then we end up going with the closest one besides that. So there's a 3-step thing if we need it when it comes to the tiebreakers. But that poll is up on there. You can vote on that forum up until the kickoff starts at the Royal Rumble. And depending on how quickly we're able to get the statistics out and everything, we'll either reveal the winner of the overall contest or at least the winner of the WWE Fantasy League side of it on the Royal Rumble post show. And if not, if we don't have that information out yet, then we will address that on a future video after that, maybe on the hot tags, maybe on a special just bonus video that we just put out there the day after or something. I haven't quite figured that out yet, and we're not going to know until we know. So for this next week, figured I'd give everybody a full week. You can vote on the 1 to 30 entrants and all the other parts of this form. You can actually edit your responses. So if you, for instance, think that like, hey, Liv Morgan is going to actually come out at a different spot other than the number 1 that she says that she's going to, and then you go, I actually changed my mind. Maybe she will. Then you can edit it all the way up until the kickoff starts. As soon as the kickoff starts, this poll's getting shut off, and then we won't be able to have everything, and it'll just be all locked in. And I'm kind of curious to see how this goes, and I encourage everybody else to take part in the fun. Join in. So let's back into the TV side of things here, and let's talk about Monday Night Raw and NXT and so on and so forth. On the Monday Night Raw side of things, we got things like Solo Sikoa beating Mustafa Ali. We got the Street Profits against Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. We got the setup of Omos returning and beating down Elias. MVP is still with Omos, and kind of seems like they're sort of bouncing around between this idea of the Hurt Business. Where do you guys think this is going to go?
I think that it will probably, it's hard to tell because almost being part of that group means they can't be baby faces, and it seems like Lashley's a baby face right now, or is definitely heavily leaning towards baby face.
Yeah.
Almost can't fit into that mold, I don't think. And I think that the whole group would work better as a babyface unit, like going up against primarily Judgment Day would probably be the immediate opposition for them. I mean, you could do it in some sort of like tweener role where they just bounce around and they're the baby faces against certain people and the heels against others. But I think what I hope it doesn't lead towards is Lashley versus Omos at WrestleMania again.
I didn't even think about that. Oh, crap.
But
and the winner gets MVP.
I'm still of the opinion that I think you've already said that I think they're doing Lashley and Lesnar again at WrestleMania. So maybe this is just the lead up towards that, and having Omos as part of the group is the way they help tip the balance against Lesnar. Even though realistically Lashley's already proven that he can deal with Lesnar on his own. Obviously he lost the match at Crown Jewel, but he dominated the vast majority of that match. So, but I think there's still a lot of it up in the air at the moment, and realistically, I would not want Omos involved in any capacity and just have the 4 guys back together as the Hurt Business again. But that's just me.
That's not just you. I agree.
No, I think that's everyone. I think that's the vast majority of people. But that's it's clearly at the moment not going to be as straightforward for the guy who's currently in charge of creative.
So if they do anything at WrestleMania, I think it's Judgment Day needs opponents. They'll do Hurt Business, Judgment Day 3-on-3. I think Omos is still with MVP because he's big and we have a Royal Rumble to be concerned with. But more than anything, I think that they're just setting themselves up for after WrestleMania when, all the hysteria dies down. You're going to need a Hurt Business to attack a hopefully full-time world champion or full-time United States champion or whomever. I think that they're just setting the table for after WrestleMania.
I am currently not as sold on the idea of Bobby Lashley going up against Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania anymore. And I'm starting to think that maybe we do get Hurt Business versus Judgment Day. But Omos was not what I was expecting for this week. I actually even put up an article in Indie Wrestling News about like my predictions for who's going to fill in the remaining spots of the Royal Rumble. And I specifically mentioned, well, we haven't seen Omos in a while, so I guess maybe he's out for a little bit. And then a couple days later, they're like, yeah, by the way, Omos is back and he's in the Royal Rumble. And I'm like, oh, God damn it. Typical.
Well, if you don't use him for a Royal Rumble, what do you use him for? Like,
I was thinking that maybe he was like injured, or maybe they were going to repackage him or something. But he's also in that kind of position where if you put him in the Royal Rumble, he's not going to win it. And he can play the big guy that somebody else can eliminate. But I am not interested in any feuds that can come out of that, as far as like, Lashley eliminates Omos and then they go and do a whole other thing. Like, I don't want to see that at WrestleMania again. I don't want to see Brock Lesnar against Omos. I don't want to see Seth Rollins against Omos. Like, there's nobody against Omos that I'm interested in seeing in that capacity. So, I don't know. This threw me for a loop. I was thinking that we were heading pretty much towards Hurt Business, and now I'm like, I don't know. But
they got MVP and they're using him with everybody there. They've used him with since he started back with the company. So I think that that's a plus, because for a while there, he just wasn't on TV.
Omos, you mean?
No, MVP.
No, MVP.
Well, I guess because of Omos, but
yeah.
Still.
It seems like they're settling on Michin for the medium name. Every week, it seems to kind of go back and forth, but it seems like they actually put the graphic up this week that she is just Michin.
So, yeah, but then they'll go Mia Yim.
Right,
Mia
and
Yim.
I think she's still Mia Yim on the website, but yeah, we've talked about that before. You can't trust everything on the website. You can trust everything on smarkandmove.com, though. So, Bronson Reed had a whole thing with Akira Tozawa. Judgment Day beat Alpha Academy, who seem like they are trending more and more towards baby faces, which I think works. And we're at a position right now where Bobby Lashley won the 6-pack challenge to become the number one contender for the United States Championship. So we're going to get Lashley versus Austin Theory going forward. And it kind of rolls a little bit into one of the other topics that we got going on here, which is predictions for the 30th anniversary of Monday Night Raw. We know we're going to get a Raw Tag Team title match. We're getting Becky Lynch against Bayley in the steel cage match. We're getting the legends that are going to pop up and the Lashley and Austin Theory United States title match. Plenty other stuff, I'm sure. It's 3 hours. That won't take 3 hours.
Acknowledgement ceremony, which is the hook of the whole thing.
So going with all that kind of stuff in mind, let's kind of bounce around here. First things first. Bayley and Becky in a steel cage. Who do you think's winning?
Well, Becky, but yay, this is a great idea. This should be a fun match. And I think more women should get feuds like this with blow-off matches like this.
Yeah, Becky should win. She's lost too many times since she's returned from injury.
I am expecting Becky to win as well. What about the tag titles?
Judgment Day.
Yeah, I think they're switching, and I think it's probably going to come either due to a mistake by Sami Zayn or interference by Kevin Owens.
Or both.
We need to talk about this. I don't care. It's been a year of the undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions. Why did they just wake up in the middle of the night and decide, oh yeah, they're separate belts?
I think more than anything, they started working on the WrestleMania card. Like, they finally sat there and went, okay, what do we have for this? What do we do for this? And then they went, oh, fuck. Then they just kind of went, it's just,
And for that matter, it's like, does that mean they're going to wake up one day and just do the same thing with Roman?
I don't know if they'll necessarily just wake up and do it. I think that the Royal Rumble might determine it. I think that this might actually partially be their way of softening it up to do that. Because if they have the Roman and Brock thing at WrestleMania, they unify the titles, and then you go into, hey, maybe we should unify the tag titles and we can beat RK Bro. Everybody just went, oh, okay, because the Bloodline's winning all these belts, and that makes sense. And now if you go with splitting the tag titles, it's not going to seem as crazy if Roman has to defend 2 separate titles at WrestleMania or something.
I'm just saying you could have set it up exactly as they did, but just don't do the 7 months of, no, we only have 1 set of tag team championships now. Like, could have always just had Adam Pearce be like, well, guess what? It's SmackDown and you're the SmackDown tag team champions, or hey, you're on Raw tonight, so defend those Raw like, it doesn't change much. It just helps in this scenario. But yeah, I think that Judgment Day will win, likely due to KO. I wonder how that's all going to factor into the acknowledgement ceremony, because that seems like they're promising all the Bloodline generations, and we know Rikishi and Samu are going to be there. Could we see The Rock? Could we see Naomi? You know, I think either way, one of those two is going to show up at the Rumble. It's very interesting, but I also, my worry is that I'm such an optimist that, like, yeah, I'm thinking of all these interesting possibilities, but they could also just do fucking nothing.
Mm-hmm. We've had it in the past, like Raw 25 and all, like, where they're like, hey, guys, remember when they did Raw? Anyway, moving on. And then you're just sort of, okay. I mean, they're advertising right now, like Undertaker, Michaels, Road Dogg, X-Pac, Triple H. So it's like, yeah, DX, we just saw them. Flair, Hogan, Lawler, Teddy Long, Ron Simmons, Kurt Angle. Bell Twins. They're not on the website. It's funny. Why?
I think the saddest thing there is just like, yeah, the Undertaker is just Mark Calaway now. He just gets grouped in with all the other legends. Haha, we'll see you Monday, pal. You know, like, I'm
going that the titles are going to change hands, though, too. I think that we're getting KO or Sammy interfering, and I think Dominic and Damian are, which is kind of weird because it's like Dominic and Damian winning those titles throws off the idea of Dominic against Ray at WrestleMania for me. I don't know.
They could freebird it, and you could have Dominic versus Ray at WrestleMania and have Finn and Damian defend the titles instead.
I would be way more down for a freebird situation, because not only do I think that Finn and Damian together against whoever they end up fighting would be a better match, I also think that I don't care whatsoever about this potential Edge versus Finn continuation feud. I don't want to see them against each other for 3 more times. So if we get Edge versus anyone else, I'm going to be way more interested in if it's just like, it's Edge and Finn over and over and over and over. Give me Ray against Dominic, and Judgment Day's Finn and Damian against 2 other people or something. But I think we're getting new tag champs. Rob's thinking that too. And Callum, you're on the same boat, or?
Yeah, title changing, yeah.
My only issue with this is it weakens the idea of a potential Owens and Zayn beat the Usos. Because yes, they can just beat them for the SmackDown tag titles, and it still would be a great match, and it still matters. But it's also like, it'll matter less if we're going to have Judgment Day against Alpha Academy against Benjamin and Alexander for another set of tag titles.
Yeah.
That's just my thought.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been the biggest fan of the unification to begin with, but I thought if any belt seems like it needs to be unified, it's the tag titles. Because they don't have a whole lot of tag teams. It's never been their primary focal point, so.
But to be fair, they have a lot of tag teams. They just don't have a lot of over tag teams.
Yeah, I mean, technically speaking, you've got like
the Hit
Row and
Angel
and Umberto, and yeah, I mean, you do have a lot of tag teams you can work with, but not enough that you can sustain 2 separate acts over the course of the brands. Any legends you guys expect to pop up that aren't advertised that'll be like a particularly fun surprise?
Vince.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, yes, I do kind of think that Vince McMahon might just show up and say, "Welcome to Monday Night Raw," and that'll be their way of going, "We got him on TV. The door is open," and just sort of
gauge the reaction from the crowd, and
which will be unbelievable because it's still Vince. And say whatever you want. They've proven it at this point. He'll get a fucking crazy reaction. Outside of Vince, I mean, they paid Shane a reported $828,000. Why don't you have old Shane-O just be like, "Hey, I'm here too. Remember all the stuff I did on Raw?" Honestly, they should get whoever they can. It is a big milestone. You know, see what Austin's doing. Maybe Austin wants to stun somebody.
I'm surprised that he's not announced yet.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is I don't think they bring anybody else that's kind of like a surprise. I don't think that it would be big enough. They wouldn't advertise it in advance. But surely, if you're going to have Austin or The Rock on your show, you would let people know that Austin or The Rock is going to be on your show.
I think Brock will be there.
Yeah, that one's a bit different in terms of, Brock can come and go. It's like he's somewhat of a draw, but not to the same extent. So the more surprising ones would be people like, I don't know, the Hurricane showing up.
Yeah, they're gonna be like the typical backstage segment thing where it's just Teddy Long hanging out with.
What's Teddy Long doing on Raw as well?
Yeah, he's more of a SmackDown guy, but they're just like, hey, he's one of the few legends that we can just call up and he'll definitely do it. And
it's such a dwindling number now. It's so
it really is.
Like all these people is just, and nobody from the current, well, I say nobody, very few people from the current iteration or from the past 10 or so years will ever join those and have the same impact. Like you'd probably say, obviously Cena and Orton, probably the New Day. And then maybe a couple of others, and that's about it, really, from the current iteration. It's not like people are going to be popping in 10 or 15 years' time for Baron Corbin or Dolph Ziggler coming back.
Or will they? And I'm not even being funny. Does it just boil down to, oh man, I remember you from my childhood. Childhood means good. So I'm so happy to see you, Sheamus. You know?
We'll see if there are
IRS
any
on the show. Get in the control of his
yeah.
son.
Yeah, why not? Have Bray Wyatt and Bo Dallas, Uncle Howdy, talking about how they've got a connection between the two of them and it's taxes. And then IRS shows up and he's like, yeah, neither of you filed last year.
We didn't mention any potential women appearing.
I mean, Trish and Lita and, Michelle McCool. And there's a lot of people that could pop up that have been in recent Royal Rumbles, like they could put like Victoria in there. They could put
Kelly always seems to be willing.
Yeah, she pops up almost every single time that they do this. Molly Holly, I'm sure, will probably pop up. And then, maybe they can get a random person here and there, like a Jacqueline or...
Of the announced legends, do any of them get physical? Like, just super kick somebody?
Out of the group that's on the WWE page right now, the one that's WWE legends are set to appear to be part of the historic Raw 30 celebration, I don't think any of them does anything physical.
I'm gonna go ahead and suggest maybe the Bella Twins stop Damage Control from interfering in the cage match.
Oh, so they're not listed on the page for that, but yeah, I would agree.
Do something with them, for God's sake. Supposedly, you just threw away all your plans for the tag team titles once the Bella Twins couldn't do anything. So if they're willing to do something, have fun.
Do a Barmageddon tie-in. But yeah, I mean, I can't picture like Ron Simmons doing a Dominator to someone, or like
he's gonna get in Corbin's face, I'm sure.
I don't think Hulk Hogan's doing a leg drop. You're talking about getting physical though. I mean, he's gonna say damn, that's for sure. But it'll be the backstage segment of a bunch of people all hanging out. It'll be like, oh, it's great to see all the legends backstage. And then it'll cut to somebody else walking to the ring, and it'll be like, step into the whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like that song that plays when you're doing that. And all right, well, coming up in the next segment, we're going to have our steel cage match or something.
And look, this is not a knock on this person, but I do have to say that you guys' point about not having any legends, when you got Tatanka being like, yeah, they did ask and I can't make it. It's like, you're asking Tatanka. You barely wanted him on Raw when you had him.
Yeah.
And now you're like, yeah, great legend here, Tatanka.
You think that there's like a Rolodex?
There
they
might
just keep
be.
like everybody's possible numbers over the course of however time, and then they, unless it's like somebody that they really don't give a shit about.
The Women's Royal Rumble last year.
Seems like it, yeah. Victoria will probably pop up.
Have, on a Legends deal. Oh, Tatanka? Well, we might as well get a fucking appearance out of him.
Right. Think Jimmy Hart will accompany Hulk Hogan?
Okay, Hogan's not confirmed.
He's up on the page. I mean,
is he really?
Yeah, he's one of the 5 people on the graphic. It's Hogan, Michaels, Triple H, Undertaker, and Flair.
That's ridiculous. They didn't even announce him on the show. They're just gonna throw that in there. I was gonna say only Ric Flair said Hulk Hogan would be there, but I guess fuck me, Hulk Hogan's just gonna be there. Yeah, wow, it's full blown Mark Calloway in this picture too.
Yep.
Actually, this picture's making me rather sad. I'm gonna click away from it.
Yeah, well, Sean looks happy in it.
Jimmy Hart will be there. He once said he wanted to manage Omos. Maybe we can make that happen.
I can imagine that there was at least 3 babies in that conversation. Yeah, baby, let me tell you something. I think as far as the United States title goes, that's our last of those types of predictions. Do you guys think that Bobby Lashley is winning that, or is it staying on?
Brock Lesnar is going to come back and beat the shit out of Bobby Lashley, and no, he's not winning the United States title.
You think they're just going to have him ruin that again? And it's like every time Bobby Lashley's hanging around that belt, Lesnar's like, oh, fuck you.
Yep.
I don't think Theory's losing it, but I don't necessarily think it's because of Brock.
I have no interest in seeing Theory beat him clean or by pulling tights. It better be Brock.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to see Theory actually beat Bobby Lashley. I just don't think that's realistic, especially considering the fact that last year Lashley just wiped the floor with him in basically every encounter they had one-on-one. So it should either be some sort of interference by like Lesnar, or some kind of attempted help by MVP or the Hurt Business that goes wrong and costs him. But then it means that you're actually feuding with the Hurt Business rather than that. I don't really want to see that. In an ideal world, I just have Lashley beat Austin Theory, and then he defends the United States title against Lesnar at WrestleMania.
I'd be down for that.
Yeah, why not?
I do still think it's going to be Theory versus Cena for the United States title, but
yeah, that makes sense as well. I'd say that's what I'd want to see happen. Is not what I expect. I expect Fury to win by some fashion or some sort of DQ.
I don't want to see Fury with the US title if he's going to go against Cena, because I want John Cena to win.
Yeah, give him the belt.
Yeah.
I'm down for him having a championship again. Why not? So that's Monday Night Raw, those side of things. I honestly did not watch Dynamite this week, so it kind of got lost in the shuffle for me. So you guys are going to have to kind of fill me in on some of the stuff. I'm looking at the results actually kind of right now. Orange Cassidy beats Jay Lethal. Top Flight beats the Young Bucks. Huh.
Yeah. Oh, I'll do the quick rundown then, because we might as well. So, yeah, the opener, Orange Cassidy successfully defended the All-Atlantic Championship against Jay Lethal. again, fun match, but most of the, I guess, action or entertainment was happening in the crowd because Jeff Jarrett and Sanjay Dutt and Satnam Singh were banned from ringside. So they bought tickets to sit in the front row, and then Danhausen came up to him in an usher outfit to check their tickets and said, "Oh, okay, that's fine, but there's some other people that are going to be joining you." And the best friends then just started walking down the aisle with popcorn and beer, and then they got involved as well. And yeah, but it was just a fun match. Then Top Flight beat the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks are wearing Jay Briscoe armbands with JB on them, which was a nice touch. They hit the Doomsday device at one point because that's one of the Briscoe signature moves. But yeah, Top Flight get the victory. It was again a fun match, and maybe it's a sign that Top Flight are being pushed up towards a title opportunity. Again, it's not something that you want to end up talking about too much, but I could see them being a good choice for the next Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions if they decide to go down that route and give them more of a prominent position there. But I could definitely see them being the next AEW Tag Champions as well. A feud with the Acclaimed could work out well, even though it is babyface. Speaking of the Acclaimed, they had a promo segment with the Guns, and it essentially ended with Billy Gunn saying that he's sick of all this shit. He's sick of dealing with his sons, and he's sick of the Acclaimed not taking their role as champions super seriously. And so next week they're going to have family therapy, which sounds very raw. So I don't know what to expect about it, but we'll see how it goes. It could be fun. They could get Dr. Shelby.
Wait a minute. Hold on. No. Somebody had to call Bart Gunn, right?
Oh, that'd be fun.
That would be amazing.
I just thought of that right now. Somebody had to call Bart Gunn.
Uncle Bart.
That's awesome.
Yeah. In your weekly awesome Bryan Danielson match of the week, he had an awesome match with Bandito.
Did it suck?
It was arguably better than the match with Takeshita.
Yeah, this one was really, really good.
Yeah, just I'm totally down for this whole approach of, okay, he's got to earn his way to the title, and he's just literally beating every single top guy that can do like great bell to bell work on a weekly basis. So every week you're going to get at least one absolutely banger match, and next week it's going to be Danielson versus Brian Cage with and MJF paid off or gave it him and Prince Nana a huge amount of money last in a promo segment. I basically said, I don't care if you win or lose, but I want you to break Danielson's arm.
All right.
Yeah, so that's the whole gimmick surrounding that match. It's going to be, it's not about the win. It's just about injuring Danielson. We got to see Ricky Starks defeat Jake Hager. Again, just a fun match. Like, Jake Hager's not someone that you turn to for like absolute banger classic matches, but it was fun enough, and it keeps Ricky Starks winning. He continues to outfox and beat the Jericho Appreciation Society. They had a backstage promo afterwards with Jericho and Guevara and Garcia saying, okay, Garcia's going to be fighting Action Andretti on Rampage, and that he also wants to be in on a tag team match with him and Jericho against Andretti and Starks next week on Dynamite. So we'll see how that pans out. Probably the biggest talking point for me, which is a rare thing to say, but actually it's becoming more frequent, which is good in recent times, involves the women. Which was so Saraya and Toni Storm. Well, it's Toni Storm versus Willow Nightingale with Saraya in Toni Storm's corner. Toni Storm wrestles the entire match heel, and then she wins by pulling the tights of Willow Nightingale. And then after Saraya distracts Willow Nightingale, Saraya then gets into the ring, starts beating up Willow Nightingale. Toni Storm joins her. Ruby Soho comes out, chases them off, while Hikaru Shida looks on pretty like surprised about why they're doing these actions. So they are fully going with the AEW outsiders, or the people from outside the company, being the heels in this feud. And Rob, you might agree with me, might not, but I think this is definitely leading towards the first women's Blood and Guts match.
Absolutely, it is.
So wait, it's Soho was helping Storm and Saraya?
No, Soho came out to save Nightingale from the beatdown.
Even though she
just had a street fight. They can't immediately have her turn.
No, but I think they will turn because they've always had, at least in the build up to the street fight, there was always a bit of a tenuous friction between Nightingale and Soho because Soho is a bit more edgy and Willow Nightingale is just a bunch of fun, and so they kind of clash in terms of their personality. So I think eventually Saraya and Storm will convince Soho to turn her back on Nightingale, and
then that leaves you with Athena.
Yeah,
that's perfect.
Yeah, so what I think it's going to end up being is on one side you're going to have Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter, Hikaru Shida, Willow Nightingale, and I'm trying to think of who else. I mean, Jade Cargill would fit into that, but I don't.
If they got Jade on one side, they've got Sasha or Mercedes on the other.
Well, yeah, that's the thing that I was going to consider is that the other side you have Saraya, Storm, Soho,
Athena,
and Mercedes Moné, if they can get hold of her. If not, there are other women that you've got there that are formerly from WWE.
I mean, outside of them, if you take Cargill and you take Moné or Money, it's more Money, right? Isn't it?
Yeah,
Mercedes
right.
Money.
It's Moné.
It's Moné. Not Moné, sorry.
So fucking
Moné.
dumb. If you take those two out of the equation, then they don't have as many options for the outsiders.
I mean, you could just stretch with Mercedes Martinez, Serena Deeb.
Serena Deeb could do it.
Ty Mello.
Yeah, Ty Mello.
That'd be fun. Just cause
it'd be weird if you did that without Anna Jay though.
Yeah, but then I mean, maybe they have Anna Jay on the other side. Maybe they do something with that. I don't think so, but it could be the case. I mean, they technically could have Leva Bates and be like, "You were Blue Plans," but that's not going to happen.
But it's kind of interesting. I think that it is good that they decided to fully go in the direction of Saraya's heel. She was pretty much heel from the first promo she cut in the promotion, and so they've decided to go, okay, we're gonna run with this now. We're gonna turn those two heel. We're gonna make Baker and Hayter baby faces. It'll be interesting to see what side Shida ends up sitting on. I think it's quite clear that she'll end up going with the AEW originals, despite her issues with Baker in the past. But yeah, I think it was a good segment. It's a good, clear sign that that's the direction they're going in.
So are there any free agents? Would stand out?
Chelsea Green, but I think she's signed to WWE now.
She's all but signed to WWE, yeah.
I'm not sure who else that's Nia Jax.
Yeah, we don't need Nia Jax.
I mean, it has a big name, at least.
I mean, the relationship with New Japan is there, so why not Kairi?
Could be the case.
Do Kairi, yeah.
Maybe Mickey?
Maybe. If she wants to just do a one-off thing for AEW. It'd be weird if she comes in as a heel, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe Mandy Rose.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, yeah, that's a good shout.
I mean, there's the connections there with Paige and everything.
Yeah, that could definitely be an alternative if they can't get money.
And they could just be hey, we don't care if you are doing your OnlyFans thing or something.
I think this is good, but I'm not a fan of how. See, even though, yes, we said they're going in this direction, but the way that they just did one backstage promo where suddenly Saraya and Tony Storm are just yeah, but they don't get it. They haven't been where we've been. It's you showed no inkling of this, and in fact, your whole deal was supposed to be that you're so happy to be away from there, and I think it's just proof that that one promo from Saraya bombed everything to the point where now they're doing this.
Well, no,
and
I think
sure. Go ahead.
I was to say, I think that promo by Saraya, whether it was intentional or not, set this completely in motion. Again, I don't think this was the direction they planned on taking. They've course corrected, but she basically said in her first promo that she's done things that people in AEW's women's division can't possibly have done. She's been places and done things and achieved things that give her a level of star power above this current division. And she's here to help the division because she's a star. And I think that's pretty much been her mantra throughout the feud with Britt Baker. And now they're deciding to use that as a case that she's super arrogant and she's managed to corrupt Toni Storm into thinking the same way as her. So I think that it realistically, despite the fact that I almost certainly believe that this is just happenstance and this wasn't the plan originally, they've managed to make it work without, absolutely twisting the story.
And I'll say this, if they cannot get Mercedes or a free agent, you just turn Thunder Rosa, say, like, yeah, you people are fickle. Fuck you people. I'm going to just beat up Britt Baker and get a hitter.
Or she would be a good choice for the original side as well, if they wanted to go that direction. And then the main event, Darby Allin defeated Kushida to retain the TNT Championship. It was a very good match. I think it was kind of, I don't say heatless because there wasn't really much story into it, but they sometimes like to just put in these good to great championship matches to main event the show where you just know that, okay, it's going to get this outsider in. The TNT title is usually the good vehicle to just get an outsider in to have a one-off match. So, yeah, it was a fun and a good victory for Allin, and we'll see what's next for him in terms of actually a quote-unquote feud over the TNT Championship. But, yeah, it was a good show. It wasn't at the level of the last couple of weeks, but still a very, very good show.
Yeah, no matter what, these shows always fly, and I think that that's a credit to how much fun the shows can be.
And then Darby Allin beat Kushida.
But yeah, that's what I just said that.
He said that.
I thought that you hadn't mentioned that yet. All right, well then that's Dynamite. Might have to go back and check out some of those segments for sure. And somehow we came to rounding this out with NXT. I don't know why. It just kind of happened. Apollo Crews and Axiom beat Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams. Later on in the show, Apollo Crews was like, "Hey, we beat you." Which was like kind of, I don't know why they bothered to do that segment, but okay.
I think this is leading to, unfortunately, because I like them together, Melo just being like, "Yep, I'm going on my own because you keep fucking up."
Well, Hayes took the pin.
Yeah, but it's all because Williams just can't get over this weird thing with Axiom and the mask.
I mean, that would explain if they move them up, move Hayes up and keep Williams in NXT. Potentially happen. Sol Ruca had her match with Alba Fire, and Alba Fire ended up attacking some officials backstage, all pissed off that Isla Dawn had interfered and cost her the match. Ken Carter and Katana Chance came out, said like, "Yo, what the fuck you doing?" And Alba Fire was like, "Hey, fuck you, pals. I'm going to go for your tag titles instead, even if I don't have a partner." So
this is inevitably leading to Alba Fire and Isla Dawn winning the tag titles, right?
Absolutely.
I think that's the same thing. Yeah, it was just like so dumb because the whole thing is Fire and Dawn hate each other and all, but this is pro wrestling
with accents.
Yeah, it's pro wrestling, and it's like you're the UK girls that came over, and more than likely that's probably where it's going. Yeah.
And also, we're not going to skip over this. They put Sol Ruca over a former champion on television. I'm telling you, she's getting the major push, and she deserves it. She's good. She's fun. I really enjoy watching her.
They also made a point to say that Casey and Casey have been the longest running women's tag team champions.
Yeah, with only like 150 something days. It's
like we beat the record, and it's like, yeah, well, considering 3 of the title reigns were less than a day or something, then you don't have that much to work with.
Quite the record.
Yeah. It's like, hey, Finn Balor he had a record for the first Universal Champion and all that. Tony D'Angelo was threatening to toss Stacks over the bridge, and he ended up making him an underboss instead. Thought that was kind of fun.
So the funny thing about this, go ahead.
I was gonna say, the thing I found funny about it is the fact that he willingly walked to the place that he knew that his friend got thrown off a bridge.
I mean, he sat there and said, "If you want to throw me over the bridge, you can."
Like, go on, man. Have some self-respect for yourself.
Yeah, that's a fucking loyal soldier right there. If he's like, I'm going to go to the spot where you can kill me, and then I'm going to turn my back to you and say, kill me if you want.
No, the funny thing for me is there's no one else in this family. So for weeks in my writings, I've been calling him Tony D's underboss, because what the fuck? Who else is there? There's no one there. He must be the underboss because he's the only one that's ever allowed to be around Tony.
Put up an article, Tony D'Angelo's underboss becomes underboss.
I should have.
Yeah, I mean, that's something. But they are kind of leaning a little bit more towards, I think, maybe a possible babyface turn for those guys.
Yeah. I don't know why. Tony D
Different.
still hasn't really clicked with me.
I thought it was funnier at the very, very beginning.
I really like Tony D'Angelo. I think that he's so remarkably good for a guy that is so inexperienced. I think he has good promo presence and he has good matches, despite only having like 20 of them, I think, in his entire career so far.
Who knows? Maybe he is one of those fast track to the main roster types or something.
Yeah,
he'll never be on. Real quick, since we're talking about people who should be like fast track, I saw Tavion Heights in a clip from Level Up. That guy, if we're just going by like looks, he's got the looks and makings of a star. And if you can get him fast tracked to get the in ring, he could be like a fun, what they want Gable Steveson to be.
Who knows if Gable Stevenson's going to be anything? Let's see, where do we go from that? That was Stevie Turner popped up again to be like, hey, I'm a Twitch streamer and
I'm Screwball. Thank you.
Gallus beat Brooks Jensen and Josh Briggs. We got that segment later on with the New Day talking about how they're not going to fight Pretty Deadly, only for it to be coming out that they're going to have a triple threat match instead. They are going to fight Pretty Deadly and Gallus at Vengeance Day. So we're at a spot now where we're not getting that January event that already passed by when it should have happened to begin with. And Indus continue to not be popping up and doing things because of different things like injuries, and Veer Mahan had lost a family member or something this past week or so. And I'm like, yeah, maybe Indus isn't going to beat the New Day. Maybe Gallus is or something. We'll talk about that obviously when it comes to the Vengeance Day stuff, but we also have the potential split of Duke Hudson from Chase University, where he was filmed backstage basically calling into question what Andre Chase is doing, and then he was like, let's focus on Thea Hale. And Thea Hale beats Valentina Feroz because Elektra Lopez tosses brass knuckles to her and she doesn't use them. And then later on they have a thing backstage where she's like, well, why didn't you do that? It's because I don't cheat. Yeah, well, we're going to do the same discussion that we've done with a billion other people where it's basically like, yeah, but you need to get by here. And it seems that in the wake of Yulissa Leon being injured, that they think that they're going to just team up for Royce and Lopez.
She will be Lopez's underboss.
Pretty much.
Like, I like Lopez. She's cool. This should work out well.
Yeah, I think it'll just be essentially they'll team together with Lopez being the quote-unquote star of the team moving forward, and then when Yulissa Leon comes back, they'll just form a faction.
Either that or she'll be like, what's happened to you since I've been gone? Yeah.
Oh, that'll be initially, but then they form the faction.
I'm down for trying something different because Valentina wasn't doing it for me as it is. Like when she does the little thing in the ring, like to hype herself up and all, I think it kind of looks a little silly. Like she doesn't come off to me as like I'm hyping myself up as like a warrior and then I'm going to win a match because she loses everything. So it just sort of falls flat. And Thea Hale is fantastic, so they're getting a like commencement thing. Basically, you won a first match, so we're gonna do something next week to honor that, which I think is funny.
I want to know how Chase University ends, like
with the bell.
You know what I mean? Like, okay, asshole. Like we can't do Duke University. That's an actual school that we can't start infringing on that property. But
we could call it like the Duke Institute or something. The Insta-Duke.
All right, look, here's my weekly. Thea Hale's the best thing on NXT because she continues to be exactly that. I didn't even realize that she has experience like on AEW, Dark and stuff like that. I thought that she was just so young that she was at WWE higher.
I like her a lot. Yeah.
She's the best. She's easily the funnest thing on NXT.
We got Big Body Javi trying to hawk his Christmas album, leading to losing to Tyler Bate in his return. And
he said Feliz Navidad. I just think like he's funny. There's something there where I'm like, even if you just get the Heath Slater role, pal, you're good. You're gonna have a job for a while because you're willing to be an asshole.
He's got more personality than a lot of other people, yeah. And we eventually got Gigi Dolan and JC Jane against Lyra Valkyria and Roxanne Perez. Dolan and Jane came out at the beginning of the event, or beginning of the show, being like, hey, it's all good. And then, of course, they have their issues here, and you're teasing the idea that you could potentially split them up and all, but I honestly think this is just happening to set up the triple threat match, and then they're going to be fine after that.
I think they see something in Jane. I think Jane might end up going out on her own.
Isn't the speculation that they'll get called up to the main roster with Chelsea Green as the new leader of Toxic Attraction?
That had been one thing I had seen.
Yeah, like Chelsea fits the mold. But
yeah, but that's it could also be, who knows? Maybe Deanna pops up at WWE.
I was gonna say, sign Deanna and put Chelsea and Deanna in the ring, and now you have 2 women's tag teams instead of 1. Like, just I'd rather see that. But Chelsea could lead Toxic. I also would hate for them to just be Toxic Attraction without Mandy. Like, don't try to replace Mandy. That role was made for Mandy, and she did really good in it.
So any other thoughts you guys got that we didn't talk about yet?
We didn't touch on Tiffany Stratton, who I think that she's going to be a major, major star. And I think she's got a great banter with Mackenzie. She's one of the few people who I'm like, yeah, this 2.0 thing has worked out really well for you. And I can't wait to see how they continue to develop her.
Any other thoughts, Callum?
No, nothing NXT related.
Or, anything hot tags in general?
I saw that Sean Spears and Cassie Lee had their kid.
Yes,
oh, really?
Congrats to them. Yes, on the 17th.
What name did they go with? I didn't say anything about this.
Austin, yeah.
Huh. Oh, congrats to the couple. That's awesome.
Austin?
It was me, Austin.
Came out, stunned the doctor.
No, just hit him with a bedpan. That's all he needed to do.
You know what? I said before we got on the air that I wanted to talk a little bit about it, and I really do. Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter is reporting that The Rock feels he won't have enough time to get ready for a match with Roman Reigns.
He had like 10 fucking years, man. Come on.
Because he's got the XFL launch and all this other stuff. Yes, The Rock did get hurt in his last match with Cena, but I've seen The Rock. I'm sure he's physically fit. I'll say it here. If they don't do it this year, don't bother. Because I don't want this to be another Becky and Ronda that I also think they should do this year. Do these damn matches, get them out of the way, and stop going, well, maybe someday, because someday never comes. It never comes. Do the match or stop talking about it.
I think if they don't do it this year, it's done. Yeah. I don't think that they're even going to run it back for WrestleMania 40. I think that they'll just be like, you know what? Shit happens. We didn't do it. Oh, well. Move on.
Like Sting and Undertaker. How they're like, we wanted to. Shit happened.
How they act like, it sucks to be a fan. Well, why'd you get your hopes up? We never told you it was going to happen, even though we hinted at it for 10 years. That kind of thing.
Yeah, but this one is obnoxious. Like even Nick Khan had to be like, so are we getting The Rock versus Roman? And he's like, well, watch the show. Okay. Like, I hope that The Rock does fight Roman Reigns. If for no other reason than to just have done the match and say that you've done it. And also, Rock is entertaining.
Well, of course, we're going to have our last call of predictions for the Royal Rumble when it comes to next week and talk about the idea of not only who do we think is going to win, but also who's going to be in the match itself and the predictions contest and everything that goes along with this. It's going to be a lot to talk about just for those two matches alone. And then you've got obviously the other matches like Roman Reigns against Kevin Owens and such. So next week we will have the pay-per-view point predictions and pay-per-view point post-show, all the P's, for the Royal Rumble. And we will also be breaking down the next set of hot tags, episode 582. Following that, we get into the first week of February, and by then we'll be talking about NXT Vengeance Day, but we're also going to be doing something that is requested through the Pick Your Poison tier on Patreon. So just a reminder for anybody who doesn't know how that works. The Pick Your Poison tier is where you request something and you directly fund it, so then we do it. And Magpie has asked us to toss out our suggestions of what we would do if we were in charge to be able to fantasy rebook Starrcade 1999. So I went back and I rewatched WCW's event for that. Thought it was crap. And I was like, let me see what I could do a little bit better. And in some ways, I think I've got something a little bit more interesting. And in other ways, I go, oh man, I got nothing to work with here. So I might work a little bit more on that over these next couple days. But we got that fantasy booking coming up around the same time as Vengeance Day. We're going to get into Elimination Chamber after that. So we got plenty of things to look forward to, but we're always taking your suggestions into consideration. So drop your thoughts in the comments below. Tell us what you thought about not only these hot tags, but also what you are interested in us doing in the future. And as you are clicking on things that you can see on your screen right now for YouTube, remember that there are things outside of that too. You got Redbubble and TeePublic for the merchandise options. You got the link tree that I have over on amangotree.com or anthonymango.com, same thing. You can go to fanboysanonymous.com and see what I'm working on there, because I've been trying to do more and more content here, including even just when I binge watched that 90s show. So I was like, all right, here's the pros and cons for that. Wrote that article up pretty fast. So if you want more content on that geek culture side of things, let me know what you want for the Blue Brand. Directly sponsor things through that Pick Your Poison. Help that out with the bonus feature tier and the lending a hand tier, and all the other kind of positives and negatives that come along with me just ranting about movies and TV shows and comic books and video games and all. I don't know what the next thing is that I'm going to completely finish, but hey, we got a lot that we are putting on the back burner and trying to put out there for you. So follow me all over the place at Tony Mango, and you'll see what's popping up next whenever it is under a mango tree. Make sure that you are following Rob and Callum.
Yep, follow me, Rob, everywhere at Dude Felice. Check out my writing on Fightful and WrestleZone, and check out the backlog of stuff that I've been a part of in Fanboys Anonymous, whether it's Review to a Kill with both Callum and Tony, or the endless watch-alongs that we've done. It does end. We haven't done that many. But there's a lot of watch-alongs there, and I want to do more this year, and hopefully that's all coming soon, as is dudefleas.com, forever coming soon. And I now give you over to Callum.
I'm on Twitter at Wigmeister14. Over on the Smark website, you've got the power rankings, my weekly contribution, where I rank the WWE superstars. So if you want to see who's top of the tree for this week, that's where you'll find it every Saturday. You also find the Fantasy League, where I've been tallying up the points that all of these superstars we drafted around about WrestleMania Backlash have ever since then, you can just see all the points that everyone's been picking up, who's currently on top, what the chances are of Rob making an epic comeback. We'll see.
Gonna happen, baby. Gonna happen.
But especially with the Royal Rumble prediction contest having a effect on who will be able to get a slight advantage between Royal Rumble and Elimination Chamber. Yeah, just make sure that you're going there to follow that along throughout the entire journey. Either it's going through the Smark website and going to Fantasy League, or you can go direct to www.fantasyleague.com.
Alrighty, everybody, that's it for this episode of the Hot Tags. Thank you, of course, for listening and all of your support, and we will see you next time. until then, enjoy SmackDown tonight. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. And adios. This has been another Smark Out moment. And we are being counted out.